Every single major studio in Hollywood said no. Not once, not twice. 43 times they looked at this script and threw it in the trash. One executive laughed and said out loud, "Nobody wants to see a movie about dirty dancing." So how did that same rejected, forgotten, laughed at film end up making $214 million and becoming one of the most beloved movies in history? That's what we're getting into today. 15 wild facts about Dirty Dancing that most people have never heard. And trust me, by the time we get to number 1, your jaw is going to be on the floor. Stay with me. Number 15. Hollywood slammed the door 43 times. Let's start at the very beginning, because this story is almost too crazy to believe. A woman named Eleanor Bergstein wrote the Dirty Dancing script in 1985. She poured her actual childhood into it. She grew up spending summers in the Catskills and watched dancers do exactly the kind of moves you see in the film. This was personal. This was real. She spent years getting it right. Then, she took it to MGM. And for a second, things looked promising. One executive loved the title. They paired Bergstein with a producer named Linda Gottlieb. Pre-production started. And then, just like that, the whole management team changed and the new people read the script. Their answer? Hard pass. So Bergstein picked herself up and started knocking on other doors. Universal, Paramount, Fox, Warner Brothers. Every single major studio in Hollywood. And every single one of them said no. The reasons were almost funny. People kept saying things like, nobody cares about the Catskills, or dance movies don't make money, or that topic about the pregnancy is too controversial. One person actually said the words, nobody wants to see a movie about dirty dancing. The same words, about this script, which would go on to gross $214 million. After 43 rejections, Gottlieb was basically ready to quit. Then Bergstein stumbled across a tiny article in the New York Times. It mentioned a home video company in Connecticut called Vestron Inc. They were brand new to making actual movies, and they agreed to a meeting. But here's the catch. Vestron would only do it if the budget stayed at $5 million or less. Gottlieb had already done the math. The cheapest possible version of this film was $8 million. Cutting to 5 seemed flat out impossible, but they were out of options. So they agreed. And then the problems just kept piling up. To save money, the entire cast and crew had to live in the same hotel they were filming at. No separate hotels, no comfortable arrangements. Everyone crammed in together. On top of that, a bunch of scary events in Europe that summer made Americans cancel their travel plans. US hotels got flooded with bookings and prices shot up overnight. Finding anything affordable became a nightmare. They eventually found one willing hotel in Virginia. The catch? They had to start filming in September. It was already June when they shook hands on the deal. 3 months to get everything ready. For a film that had already been rejected 43 times. The movie nobody wanted was about to get made in the most chaotic way possible. Number 14. Patrick and Jennifer already couldn't stand each other. Here's something most fans don't know. Before Dirty Dancing, Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey had already worked together. They were both in a film called Red Dawn back in 1984. And that's exactly where everything went wrong. For Red Dawn, the director wanted the young cast to go through 8 full weeks of military training. Patrick threw himself into it. He stayed in character the entire time, method acting every single day, playing the leader seriously and with full intensity. Jennifer, on the other hand, thought he was being insufferable. She told interviewers he was too macho, too much. She could not stand it. By the time Red Dawn wrapped, they were not speaking. So when Dirty Dancing came around and Patrick's name came up for Johnny Castle, Jennifer's reaction was basically, absolutely not. But their chemistry during the screen test was so electric that the director couldn't ignore it. Patrick got the role. What happened next was a real-life push and pull. Patrick got tired of what he called Jennifer's emotional instability. She would break down crying when someone critiqued her performance. Other times, she'd burst into uncontrollable giggles right in the middle of a scene, making them reshoot over and over. Jennifer, for her part, found Patrick's fearlessness intimidating compared to her own constant nervousness. She felt like they were speaking 2 completely different languages. It got so tense that the producer and director had to step in. Their fix? They forced Patrick and Jennifer to sit down and rewatch their own screen test, the one where the sparks were undeniable. It worked, but only for a little while. They'd film some scenes with genuine energy, then go straight back to avoiding each other the moment cameras stopped rolling. The weird part? All that real tension between them turned out to be exactly what the film needed. The friction you feel between Johnny and Baby on screen was not always acting. A lot of it was real people who genuinely had complicated feelings about each other, and the camera caught every bit of it. Number 13. Jennifer Grey got actual hypothermia filming that lake scene. The lake scene is one of the most romantic moments in the whole movie. Baby standing in the water, Johnny walking toward her, that lift. It looks peaceful and warm and magical. It was the opposite of all of that. The plan was always to film it during summer when the water would be comfortable and conditions would be easy. But a brutal heat wave at the very start of production caused so many delays that by the time they finally got to the lake scene, it was late October in Mountain Lake, Virginia. The water temperature had dropped to 40 degrees. That's just barely above freezing. Jennifer later said you have to be young and totally desperate to willingly get into water that cold. Patrick called it hypothermically horrible in his autobiography. Here's what this looked like from shore. Every crew member was standing around in heavy winter coats, hoods pulled up, gloves on, holding hot coffee and blankets. And there in the water were Patrick and Jennifer in jeans and a shirt, just standing in 40-degree water, lips turning blue, skin going pale, shaking so hard between takes they could barely hold their arms still. Jennifer did not just feel cold. She actually got hypothermia, like the real medical kind, where your body starts losing heat faster than it can make it. Between takes, crew would rush over and wrap them in blankets, trying to get their temperature back up. Then, back in the water they went. Patrick was also dealing with a severe knee injury the entire time. Fluid was building up in his knee constantly, and lifting Jennifer in that freezing cold made it feel, as he wrote later, like lifting 500 pounds. And they kept going. Different angles, different shots, over and over. The next time you watch that scene, look closely at Jennifer's lips. They really are blue. And Patrick's expression, that look of strain, that's not acting. That's a man in real physical pain, trying to hold a woman steady in ice-cold water. What looks like movie magic was actually one of the hardest days of filming the entire crew ever had. Number 12. That final lift had never been practiced. Not even once. You know the moment. The music swells. Patrick runs toward Jennifer. She jumps. He raises her above his head. The whole theater holds its breath. They had never rehearsed that move. Not one single time. Jennifer had a genuine fear of being lifted that high. She kept putting it off during rehearsals. She kept saying she'd do it later. And later kept getting pushed back until there was no more later. The cameras were rolling and it was time. They did it. And they nailed it on the very first try. Jennifer later said she had done that particular lift exactly twice in her entire life. Once in the film, and once in the lake scene earlier in the movie. She said she never did it again after filming Wrapped. Not at anniversary events, not at reunions, never. She called it a game day thing, and said Patrick was the only person in the world she would ever trust to try it with, because of his ballet training and his strength. What makes this even more wild is where this happens in the film. Patrick had already been dancing hard for several minutes straight. His knee was killing him. And then, at the very end of all that, he had to hit that lift perfectly, with no safety net and no warm-up attempt. Just once. Cold, the looks on their faces when he catches her at the end are completely real. The relief, the joy, the surprise that it actually worked. Jennifer wrote in her memoir that what you see between them in that moment was genuine emotion, not performance, and you can feel it every time you watch it. Number 11. Patrick's famous irritation was 100% real. There is a scene where Johnny teaches Baby a move and slowly trails his fingers down her arm. She giggles. He gets frustrated. It feels like a perfect, playful moment between two people falling for each other. Here's the truth. It was absolute torture to film. They were shooting in a tin building with zero heating at 4 in the morning after 18 hours straight of work. Patrick was exhausted, freezing, and desperately wanted to go home. The director set up the shot. Simple scene. Should take one take. Patrick trails his fingers down Jennifer's arm. Jennifer erupts into laughter. She is extremely ticklish, especially under her arms. His hand grazed her underarm and she completely lost it. Cut, reset, try again. She laughs before he even touches her. Just the anticipation of the tickle sets her off. Take 5, take 8, take 12. Jennifer cannot stop. Sometimes she holds it together for 2 seconds and then cracks. Sometimes she's already laughing before the director even calls action. And Patrick's face, watch it closely in the film. That look that shifts from patience to annoyance to something much harder. Nobody directed that. That was not in the script. Choreographer Kenny Ortega was standing off to the side watching it happen and later said he saw the exact moment Patrick stopped acting and started actually getting angry. Take 23. The director threw up his hands and said they were using it. All of it. The real exhaustion. The real ticklishness. The real frustration. The camera captured 2 people at their absolute breaking point, and it became one of the most beloved scenes in the whole film. A total accident that worked better than anything they could have planned. Number 10. The heat wave was so bad it sent people to the hospital. First day of shooting. September 5th, 1986. The forecast had called for temperatures in the mid-80s. What they got was 102 degrees. Everyone showed up in period clothing from 1963. Wool, polyester, heavy layers. Fabric that does not breathe. By midday, people were struggling just to stand up straight with makeup melting off their faces. Day 2, 104 degrees. One of the dancers collapsed mid-rehearsal and had to be rushed to the hospital by ambulance. Production shut down for 2 hours. Day 3, 105. The interior buildings were even worse. No air conditioning, plus the massive production lights pumping out their own heat. Inside those buildings, temperatures were hitting 120 degrees. Actors would do a take, stumble outside to catch their breath, and then go right back in. Patrick insisted on doing his own stunts throughout all of this. There was one scene where he had to balance on a log over a body of water. He kept falling off and slamming into the water hard. He kept getting back up and trying again. After enough attempts, his knee was so swollen that the medical team had to drain the fluid out of it just so he could keep going. Multiple actors ended up in the hospital during that first week. The production insurance company actually started threatening to shut the whole thing down. And then the heatwave delays pushed filming later into autumn. So the same people who had just survived 105-degree conditions spent the final weeks of production standing in 40-degree freezing water, from one extreme to the other, within the span of a single 43-day shoot. Number 9. They fired Baby's mom at lunchtime and replaced her in 20 minutes. An actress named Lynn Lipton was originally cast to play Baby's mother. She showed up on day 1 and they got through a car scene with the family. If you watch closely, you can just barely see her blonde hair in those few seconds of film that survived. Day 2, Lipton came back looking noticeably worse. She kept needing to lie down between takes. Production notes from that day described it plainly as a situation where everyone could see this woman would not be playing Jennifer Grey's mother much longer. At lunchtime, they sent her home and told her to rest and see a doctor. And now they had a massive crisis. There was a scene scheduled for that very afternoon that required Baby's mother. 200 extras were already on set, all being paid by the hour. 200 people who could not be rescheduled. Producer Linda Gottlieb looked around in a total panic. And standing nearby was Kelly Bishop, who had already been cast in a completely different role, playing a resort guest named Vivian Pressman. Gottlieb walked straight up to her and said, "You're the mother now." Kelly asked what would happen to her original role. Gottlieb said they'd figure it out later. They put Kelly in costume, did her makeup, and had her in front of the camera that same afternoon with all 200 extras. The role she was originally cast in got handed to Miranda Garrison, the assistant choreographer who had been teaching Jennifer the dance moves. So Garrison was now simultaneously teaching Jennifer how to dance and also acting in scenes, in the same film, at the same time. Gottlieb's notes about that whole situation have one line that sums it up perfectly. She wrote that Kelly had one strong thing going for her. She was there. Number 8. Executives thought the rough cut was going to be a total disaster. When filming wrapped in late October 1986, almost nobody on the team was feeling good about what they had. Vestron executives watched the rough cut and were convinced they had a flop on their hands. Things got so strange that the film's daily footage kept getting held up at the Canadian border because customs officials thought the title sounded like adult content and kept flagging it for review. Eleanor Bergstein actually started thinking about changing the title entirely. She came close to calling it I Was a Teenage Mambo Queen. Seriously, an acne product company called Clearasil approached the film wanting to sponsor it as a way to reach teenagers. When they found out about the sensitive subplot involving an unwanted pregnancy, they demanded it be cut out of the film completely. Bergstein refused. Clearasil walked. End of sponsorship deal. Without any major sponsor money, Vestron had to handle promotion themselves. Their strategy was extremely modest. Release it in theaters for one weekend and then push it directly to home video. Because Vestron had been in the video rental business before they ever made movies, they genuinely believed the theatrical run would be short and quiet. They gave it a small release, printed a limited number of posters, booked a small number of theaters, and hoped for the best. Then word of mouth hit like a wave nobody saw coming. Number 7. The crew spray painted dead leaves green every single morning. The film is set in the summer of 1963. It was actually shot in the fall of 1986. That is a serious problem when you are trying to make everything look warm and green and sunny. Every morning, crew members would walk out and find more leaves turning brown and orange. The grass was dying. Everything looked like autumn because it was autumn. So they did the only thing they could think of. They grabbed spray cans and painted the leaves green. Patrick later said it was the most bizarre thing he had ever seen on a film set. Guys walking around with spray cans making every brown leaf green again. And they had to do it every single morning because new leaves kept changing overnight. Some of those spray-painted leaves are still visible in the film if you know what you're looking for. In certain wide shots, the green looks almost neon compared to natural trees. Unnaturally bright, that's the paint. Cold mornings also meant actors could see their own breath when they exhaled. During outdoor scenes with dialogue, the director had to time shots carefully to catch moments between breaths so the white mist wouldn't float across the screen and ruin the summer illusion. Every single day was a battle to convince the camera that it was July. Number 6. Patrick hated his most iconic line and fought hard to cut it. Nobody puts baby in a corner. The American Film Institute ranks it among the top 100 movie quotes of all time. People still say it today. It is one of the most recognizable lines in movie history. Patrick Swayze hated it and wanted it removed from the film. He thought it was corny. He thought it made no sense. He pushed back multiple times and told the director he did not want to say it. The director insisted he film it as written. Patrick did, but he was unhappy about it. Then he saw the edited scene during post-production and something clicked. He finally understood what the line was actually doing. It was not about a physical corner. It was about baby's father and the people around her trying to keep her small and quiet and controlled. And Johnny standing up and refusing to let that happen. When Patrick saw the full emotional weight of that moment on screen, it all made sense. Jennifer Grey said that when they filmed it, even though Patrick had been complaining about the line for weeks, the moment the cameras rolled, he delivered it with complete conviction. His natural charisma made even a line he personally disliked feel like something truly powerful. The irony is hard to miss. The line he fought hardest to cut became the one thing he will always be remembered for saying. Number 5. Medical staff drained fluid from Patrick's knee between nearly every take. Patrick Swayze grew up dancing. His mother ran a dance studio and he had been training since he was a child. Years of intense movement had put serious wear on his body, and by the time Dirty Dancing started filming, his knee was already in bad shape. Then the log stunt made it dramatically worse. Patrick refused to let a stunt double do it. He kept attempting it himself, kept falling, kept hitting the water hard. His knee blew up. The swelling got so bad that medical staff had to physically drain the fluid out of his knee with a needle between takes just to let him keep moving. Think about what that means for a dance film. Every single scene required him to be graceful, light on his feet, spinning, jumping, lifting, putting full weight on a knee that was being drained with a needle between shots. The cold water in the lake made everything worse. His knee would stiffen up in the 40-degree temperature, and then he would have to lift Jennifer overhead in that state. He described it later as fighting through constant pain the entire shoot. He did not stop. He did not ask for easier conditions. He just kept going, take after take, because too many people were counting on the film. That physical toughness, that refusal to quit, it is visible in every single dance scene he filmed. Number 4. The soundtrack spent 18 weeks at number 1 and sold 32 million copies. Nobody saw this coming either. The Dirty Dancing soundtrack mixed early 1960s classics with brand new songs written to sound like they belonged in that era. It was a specific, unusual combination, and nobody predicted what would happen when people actually heard it. The album spent 18 straight weeks at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. It sold more than 32 million copies around the world. In the United States, it went 14 times platinum. In Germany, it became the best-selling album of all time. The song I've Had the Time of My Life won the Oscar for Best Original Song, the Golden Globe for Best Original Song, and the Grammy for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group. 3 of the biggest awards in music and film. For a song from a movie that executives thought was going to disappear after one weekend. Here is the strangest part. That song, I've Had the Time of My Life, became one of the most popular songs played at funerals in the United Kingdom. A song literally titled about having the time of your life became something people chose to say goodbye to their loved ones with. It makes a weird kind of sense when you think about it long enough. Dance studios across the country reported huge spikes in enrollment for partner dancing after the film came out. Radio stations that played older music saw more listeners than they had in years. A 32 million copy soundtrack from a $5 million movie that almost never got made. Number 3. The best scenes in the whole film were pure accidents. The scene where Baby and Johnny crawl toward each other on the floor. That was not in the script. The director walked in during a rehearsal and watched them doing it on their own while warming up. He liked it so much he told them to do it again with the cameras running. That take is what ended up in the final film. Another moment came when the director stumbled across choreographer Kenny Ortega and assistant choreographer Miranda Garrison dancing alongside Jennifer, helping her feel the rhythm and attitude of the moves. Without planning it, it turned into a 3-person dance. The director saw it and immediately decided to add a scene to the film with all 3 of them dancing together. It became one of the most elegant sequences in the movie. This kept happening throughout production. The team realized early on that some of their best material was coming from things they had not planned. So they started paying close attention to rehearsals and warm-ups, watching for moments worth keeping. Jennifer's real inexperience as a dancer also turned out to be a gift. Her actual nervousness, her genuine struggle to learn the moves, her visible effort to keep up, all of that was real. And all of it made Baby feel completely real too. Jennifer was not pretending to be someone learning to dance. She actually was. Number 2. The hotel had the legal power to block the entire film's release. Mountain Lake Lodge in Virginia was where most of the movie was filmed. The cast and crew all lived there during production, and in their contract, the hotel had a clause that gave them the legal right to block the film from ever being released if they disapproved of how their property was shown. In spring of 1987, 2 hotel representatives were sent to New York City to watch the rough cut. Everyone on the production team sat and waited. If those 2 people said no, the entire film, every bit of work, every ounce of pain, all 43 days of cold water and drained knee fluid and spray-painted leaves would be worthless. The representatives came back and said yes. Then, the real test came when the film opened at a local theater in Blacksburg, Virginia. One local official said it was one of the greatest things that had ever happened to the area, and claimed that everyone in the entire county had seen it at least 6 times within the first month. The hotel that could have killed the film instead became its biggest winner. They put a poster up in the lobby. They started marketing themselves as the Dirty Dancing location. Today, you can request to stay in the exact rooms where Patrick and Jennifer slept during filming. Just be ready for a long wait. The hotel hosts annual Dirty Dancing themed weekends with dance lessons and a chance to walk the exact spots where those scenes were filmed. The lake itself drained completely dry between 2008 and 2012 due to a natural geological event. It has since refilled. But for a few years, the most famous lake in movie history was just a muddy hole in the ground. Number 1. From certain failure to the highest grossing film of 1987. Let's put the whole thing together one more time. Script rejected 43 times. Made for $5 million by a company that had never made a movie. Shot in 43 days through a historic heat wave followed by near freezing water. 2 lead actors who could not stand each other. A lead actor who needed his knee drained between takes. Leaves painted green every morning. A line the star refused to say. An executive who thought it was pornographic. A hotel that almost killed it. Dirty Dancing opened on August 21st, 1987. Critics gave it mixed reviews. Vestron had booked a limited number of theaters and was already thinking about the home video release. Then, the audiences showed up. And they kept showing up. And they told their friends. And their friends told their friends. The film that every major studio in Hollywood threw in the trash became the highest-grossing film of 1987. It earned more than $214 million on a $5 million budget. The soundtrack sold 32 million copies. The famous line became permanently part of the English language. The actors, who could barely stand each other, gave one of the most electric performances in movie history. And it almost never happened. 43 times, someone said no. It only took one yes. Here is something worth thinking about before you go. Dirty Dancing almost did not exist. 43 studios said no. The cast could barely stand each other. The whole thing was shot in 43 days under conditions that would shut down most productions today. And yet it became one of the most loved films in history. So here is the question we want you to answer in the comments right now. Do you think Dirty Dancing would get made today? Because Hollywood in 2025 loves sequels and superheroes and safe bets. A small, messy, controversial love story about a teenager and a dance instructor at a summer resort with a $5 million budget and no famous names attached? Would any studio greenlight that today, or would it get rejected 100 times instead of 43? Drop your honest answer below. We read every single one. And if this video changed the way you see Dirty Dancing, do 3 quick things right now. Hit the like button, share this with one friend who loves 80s movies, and subscribe so you never miss a deep dive like this one. Because right now on your screen there is a video you need to watch next. Pretty in Pink from 1986. Another 80s classic that almost went completely off the rails before it ever reached theaters. The behind-the-scenes story is just as wild as this one. And there are facts in that video that will genuinely surprise you. Click it right now, and we will see you there.